That wasn't a bait. For some reason, it just played twice. I don't know. Yeah, welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. My name's Peter Howard at PA Howdy on Twitter and Threads and everywhere else you need an at. I gotta tell you guys and girls and everyone else, if this show was for the reasons most people have a podcast on a show, I know I'd be doing it. I'm pretty tired, but I genuinely look forward to getting to talk to a number of people we've developed a rapport with in the chat, and also Zach Reed every Wednesday at 9:30 till we get tired or run out of questions and go to bed. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk to some friends about fantasy football because I actually look forward to that. So I appreciate that you're all here, whoever is going to be here. I don't even know yet. And that Zach's here too. So let's talk about some Dynasty stuff. If anyone has any questions, drop them in the little chat boxes to give you on whatever streaming platform we happen to be on that you happen to have looked upon us or unlooked upon us, as it may be. Yeah, I'll find my button. Don't worry, I'll get there. Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Not bad. Can you run the countdown back again like 3 or 4 times?
Yeah, sure. I got it. Yeah, it's kind of addictive after a while.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what's up with you? What's up with your Dynasty life? I had another tough time titling this one. I guess generally what I see in my timeline is a whole bunch of new and interesting ways to find someone you're going to clog your roster with for the next 3 years. That's mostly what I see.
So yes and no. Yes, that is this time of year. It's a bunch of my leagues have been running waivers post rookie draft now. And so it's kind of figuring out the guys who were clogging my roster, dropping them for other guys who will continue to clog my roster, but hopefully hitting on, 1 or 2 players that I can actually either play in a lineup eventually, in theory, or have them, we just had OTAs and that sort of thing, and you're going to start seeing like mandatory mini camps and things like that pop up, and so you're going to start hearing drum beats, and so you may end up with players that you can trade even before the season happens. That if you make a waiver claim or an ad drop, because sometimes some leagues I'm in have free ad drops, and then Russ's leagues run a weekly waiver, so there's no in between. You have to spend that blind bid money, but that's where I am at right now, is like blind bidding on Rasheen Ali and the players who didn't get picked up in the original draft. So
yeah, I'm a few things there. One, this is kind of your area of the season where you pick up players that you hope psychological edges and give you opportunities. And it's a part of the season where I'm like, I can basically sleep through this part. This is good. My opinions won't change until someone plays the game at this point, unless there's big. There's some preseason game stuff we see that changes a few roster shapes or who we think is a lead running back versus a backup running back. Outside of that, yeah, I'm good. And 2, Rasheen Ali. We're deep enough into sleeper season that the people who are actually good at it, who told us who to keep an eye on in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds, the Rasheen Ali's. And Marshawn Lloyd got a lot of hype and pushed up. Ray Davis, not so much. So he's still, the Ray Davises and Mr. Ali, those guys are almost more available now. I think Eric All as well, because the cycle of those people putting out content is done, and what we're left with is here's why this wide receiver is the next big thing.
So just for example, in my most recent waiver run post draft, and this is a Russ Fisher league, but it's a little different one. This is a Harry Potter league, so the scoring is subtly different than his normal leagues. But I did a waiver run where I was able to get Tez Walker, I was able to get Jordan Travis, who is the quarterback for the Jets, a backup. I was able to get Rasheen Ali. I was able to get Eric All. And then I threw like a nothing bid at Brendan Rice and ended up with Brendan Rice for the Chargers in a it's a pretty wide open receiving core, and he's got a name. So if people get excited about vacated targets and Jerry Rice's kid, there's potential to be able to trade him. So things like that.
I get it. Yeah, Genji, ETN or Worthy PPR? I would lean ETN. I think he's worth more than a later round, late-ish, mid to late first. I get a lot of ETN questions and find myself, and that's how I find out I'm really high on ETN. I did not consider myself to be high on ETN, but at this point, yeah, I think he's worth more than a first or a random first or a mid first and whatever throw in you want to add there. Like I'll take one of the few good running backs under the age of 50, who is never going to be Christian McCaffrey because there's been like 5 players with his level of upside consistently in fantasy, so it's a bit much to ask for. Or a Barkley, he's not even got the marginal upside of Bijan Robinson. But he's really solid. He's good. He's like Joe Mixon plus, or just Joe Mixon.
And it's
yeah,
it's funny watching people with Travis Etienne because everybody was so high on him coming out, and he didn't reach those heights that they've all run back past him and pushed him down. And now, again. And I find this so often where if we just sit where we are on a player, people run past us and then they run back past us, and they're just windows.
That's my fantasy. That's where I walk into the psychology a little bit, but I find so often it's like, I don't know, you sit by the river long enough, you find all fantasy positions float past you, and like I've been here. Could you guys just slow down? You'll be all right. You got there and you just went too far, both directions.
But this is that's how I play micro markets. Like that, you can see that happening, and you can whether you're rostering, like if you're rostering a player, when they run by you, you trade them, and if you're not rostering a player, then when they run back past you and are too low, then you acquire the player, and it's just a really simple way to, I think, acquire good players or acquire value for players that you think are being overvalued. Either way, I mean, it doesn't matter which way you're doing it. So,
Genji also wants to know Flowers or Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth
Walker is another one of those people that everyone keeps zigzagging past me on. But Flowers, yeah. Flowers is the answer in this case.
I still think Kenneth Walker gets overvalued, even though people have run back. Like, just because he's not he's a good runner.
Yeah.
But you need to catch passes in order to be like a really, like a true running back that I want on my roster, because he's going to be a back end running back too, which is fine. But you can find, I know by definition there are only like 6 back end running back twos, but there really are like 20 back end running back twos that are all doing similar things. So
I think this one's about even-ish, Genji. I think Flowers had a better rookie season. I think Addison had a good rookie season. So I rely on my ranks of them as rookies, and I had Addison over Flowers, so it's Addison for me. But I think the value was bad. It's a sideways trade. You're even trading from one sophomore wide receiver into another.
And I agree. I'd rather have Addison in this one, but it's not really a trade that I would make, because it would you're having to bet 1 for 1 and hope. So, and they were both they were both
an edge to improve your rosters, one place or the other. Like this way, at least you're switching to positions. There's some dynasty edge there. There's somewhat of the same thing, but also there's just a misvaluation in this one. And this one's just a side trade to the same player at the same year in the same position. Like there's no. Again, another part of where I play Dynasty is if I'm making a trade, it's to do something with my roster. It's not that I think that I can bet which one's better than you can hardly ever. Except for maybe in rookie drafts. So, yeah. Mate, are we still on Bateman? Yeah. Oh, well, no. I mean, it didn't hit. I think it was a good year to go in on him at a price. I got him for like a second and a third in a few leagues, second in a bunch. I think the upside was definitely there at that point. It didn't work out, and I still see some hype. You can still occasionally treat him as a second in a trade or get a third back for him. I think it was a perfect year to go in on. Did it happen? No. But it's definitely better than everyone that rushed in year one when I told you it was too high, or year two when I told you it was too high, and then we tried and it didn't work out, but we at least got the right value back. What's up, everyone? I started with this one because I thought it was nice. Scribbles, is it a hot take to say Kyle Pitts will be a top 5 tight end this year? Top 5's an okay boundary. It's not everyone in the top 5 is Travis Kelce. We'll actually get one, sometimes two of those difference makers in an era, let alone in a season. So no, I think top 5 is well within his range of outcomes. I think that's fair. I think there's a very rich middle class of tight end right now, though. So everyone's going to argue with you, but I mean, there's pretty reasonable arguments for a bunch of them. It is, however, a breakout tight end year in that it's disproportionately likely that a tight end is going to break out into the top 5. It does happen every year, but it really hasn't been happening with a frequency of the last 2 years that we typically see. We're getting a lot of returns, which is great, or repeats, which is also great, but for different reasons. But this year should be a breakout tight end. And they're not all Travis Kelce's either when they break out into the top 5 for the first time. You can get plenty of just mediocre. Jason Witten had a breakout top 5 tight end for a year, for example, and that's a mid-range outcome. Some are just one-hit wonders that you never hear from again or expect to hear from again. So yeah, definitely Kyle Pitts can do something like that or even better, hopefully. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think that's a particular hot take. Zach, you're kind of in on the volume argument for him, particularly.
I mean, I think he comes back to I think he has a better season than he has.
Right.
Aside from like his rookie season was really nice. It was a 1,000-yard season. That was a great season for a tight end. I think you see him somewhere back toward that. I don't necessarily think that you're going to. I mean, you could see a Travis Kelce-esque, but I think he's probably closer to like Evan Ingram, who is really good. Is a tight end that you want when you get the value dip, then that's awesome. It's a good time to buy. I think that Pitts and Kincaid are going to be the two hot names. I think that people are looking at changes in situation with Kincaid. They're looking at vacated targets.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh no. And I think that those are going to be the two hot names, but I think that there is still this little bit of hesitancy, some tepidity with Pitts because it's again, if people think he's going to be Kelce, and then all of a sudden he is, whoever Hawkinson, then people are going to be mad that he wasn't Kelce. And so that's where
why I keep coming back to Kittle. Andrews, I guess, is falling a little bit, not in ranks or ADP, but I saw someone, it was Graham Barfield, talking negatively about Kittle's range of outcomes this year, and it gave me some pause, but I realized he was talking about this season and his ADP in best ball drafts more than anything else, but we're not really talking about those kind of stakes in a dynasty.
But
and I like him because he's one of the few. He's had like 12 points per game the last 2 years, which is pretty rare for a tight end as it is, especially consistently. He's had some injuries, which is where that per game gets a little squiffy. But also he's had that top 108 season, that top 96 season, which very few tight ends have. Mark Kelce. There's like 5 in the league that have had that level of flex appeal. One of them's Kelce. And 2 of them are out the league. One of them, Zach Ertz. One of those, for example, were not out the league, but you know what I mean? Not really viable. And Kittle's one. So I'm like, yeah, I like Kittle a lot. But there's some interesting lower tier breakouts. Oh, to your point, Evan Ingram. Like this, I know I've gone on from your questions here, Scribbles, but this to me is on from what Zach said, like Schultz and Pitts are getting the noise, but I mean, that means Ingram is them plus, which means you can get them plus for a guy who's already had a pretty good season, and you don't have to bet he has to be that ultimate range of outcomes. Same with Kittle. And that's my only hate or dislike of the idea. It's like it's fine, perfectly fine for Schultz. He's in the breakout year. Outside of the vacated targets arguments, which I promise I'm going to hate. It's just there are players with a similar range of outcomes for less. Like
I think,
yeah.
I think the hesitancy, and I get it, on Kittle is a lot of his production is not driven by volume. A lot of his production is driven by yards after catch, but it's always been that way. Like he's never been I guess he had 1 year, but he's never been the 120, 130 target.
That's the thing about Kittle. You're right. It's yards after catch with Kittle. And the thing about Pitts, and that's the other thing that you mentioned that I was going to throw out there, Pitts' problem isn't volume or yards. It's touchdowns. And tight ends usually don't have that problem. Usually it's 40 yards and a touchdown. That's your good tight end week. And that's most of them, which is why so Kittle and Pitts are both a little weird the way they make their points. You're right. Oh, look at that.
Hey, there he is. Hey, how you doing?
Man. Russ Fisher, as I live and breathe. How you doing?
That was kind of the reaction.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe today. That's okay. We're in a vibe. It's cool.
I got broken in an outhouse challenge today. That's what happened.
Oh,
I mean, you didn't lose it, but you didn't win it either. It was a weird one.
I still feel like I lost it.
I mean, I know Addison was on the, so it was. Sorry,
he also thinks about it so wrong. Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Outhouse challenge for anybody that doesn't know. First of all, I always need to point out I did not name something after myself. Someone else started calling it that. But what I do is I tell people in my league I'm doing it, and they send me a trade offer. I post it as a poll on Twitter. If the side they're offering me wins the poll, I accept the trade. I will tell you, you shouldn't do it. Your team will not be better for doing it. But what happened? You see, what happened was someone offered the Trade Addicts leagues are 12-team Superflex PPR tight end premium. Someone offered me Justin Jefferson and JJ McCarthy for Jalen Hurts and Brian Robinson. And I saw this and I'm like, I'm probably losing Jalen Hurts and this is going to piss me off. But the thing is, like, I thought it would be close. It was like 90-10 in favor of the JJs. And then even Addison shows up and he's like, well, Hurts and Jefferson aren't that far apart, but Brian Robinson and McCarthy, but that's not the point, because Hurts and Jefferson really are more than a McCarthy apart from each other.
Right.
The way I put it in, I threw it in the Discord. I was just like, if someone offered me Justin Jefferson and the 108, which is around where McCarthy was being drafted, I would reject for Hurts. I would reject that so fast.
Yeah.
And then I would besides the 90-10, and then everyone was in the comments saying, oh, this is so easily the JJ side. I'm just like, why?
but that was my quote tweet of that is, I think people are really confident that JJ McCarthy is going to be very good.
Why?
Which is
because Dynasty continues to be actually very easy. We make it sound hard, but then
So thank you, Twitter, for helping me stop overthinking it and just taking it easy.
But you got Justin Jefferson.
The point, I think Jefferson and Chase are in the similar value tiers, like Hurts and Mahomes and Allen. But I think it would be a novice guy, a fairly novice take to think, therefore, JJ equals the youngest top 3 quarterback in Superflex right now. That's a weird way to look at it. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the fact that they get drafted near each other does not necessarily equate
it's
to
a
the
tier
value.
Thing. Yeah. No one
But
takes
also
Jefferson
3 and
when
8,
Mahomes,
3
Allen,
and the
and
108 aren't
you know.
that close to each other. Like I know it's 5 picks, but
Right.
they're not close to each other.
Right.
Well, it's on the clock. I don't think anyone should or anyone would take Jefferson or Chase over Hurts, Allen, Mahomes. That's why the ranks come out that way. That's why they,
And JJ McCarthy still doesn't come
So
close
no-
to bridging the gap for me. And then this one happens: Lamar Jackson and Nick Chubb for Tua, Brock Bowers, and Tony Pollard. Like I don't hate it because I don't care about Pollard at all.
Right.
I like Tua. I also I've fully come to accept that Tua's not going to be a stud. With literally record-breaking paced wide receivers last year, he was fine. And Lamar has the ability to be that great, but I don't know, Tua and Bowers, I like the sound of that, even though the value is probably Lamar.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Lamar, but I get
the Lamar side. Yeah,
I
in
get
a
the
0.75,
excitement.
I think I was just sad to lose my trade addicts Bowers share.
Yeah.
I think I may have one more, but that was more of the sour taste than not liking the trade. Jordan Addison for Brian Thomas Jr. and AD Mitchell.
Addison.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. side 66 to 34.
Everyone likes some mystery. I get it, but I mean, and
Check.
Addison's still a little
saw
bit of
this
a
one
mystery,
come
but
through.
he's less of one. And a higher.
Someone offered me Daniel Jones and a third for a second. And I'm just like, why are you going to make me take Daniel Jones? And now I have Daniel Jones on my team.
Oh man.
They just found a way to get Daniel Jones off their roster.
It was only in 2 leagues, but that's the I can't remember the last time I had 4 trades go through on an outhouse challenge. It was a good day. Besides a lot of the very bad trades I also received.
What did we learn? No,
absolutely nothing. People never learn that they're supposed to send good offers.
I mean, not if they win with the bad ones.
Fair enough, right?
By the way, JC Troll, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not sleepy so much as I guess it works. I'm exhausted. I think that's a similar thing, but I think they're slightly different. But yeah, Zach, how much depth is too much depth?
Doesn't it depend on league? So it depends on league size. Like if I'm in a smaller league or smaller starting requirements, then I'm going to consolidate because I think you need more of the top end players. If I'm in a deeper league, then I want depth because who knows, you can withstand injury, you can plug in players, that sort of thing. So it's, to me, really league dependent, and I want my depth at specific places. So if I'm in a super flex league, I joke with John Hogue. He plays QBX, I play XQB. Where I have all of the guys who used to be quarterbacks but aren't, and all of the guys who potentially, could slide into. He may be a tight end again. Did you see that the Saints tight end got hurt today?
Oh no,
Juwan Jennings.
Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson. Sorry, yeah, got hurt. But that so I want my depth in Superflex at quarterback, obviously running back, because of the elevator escalator thing, where if you can get backup running backs, I want them. And then if I don't have a bully tight end build going, I kind of scattershot tight end. And so I'm taking upside shots at tight end with the athletic, with Eric All, that type of tight end at the back end. So that's what I would say is, if you are in a smaller league, so 10 team, even 12, but 10 especially, I want to consolidate. I want to have really high end starters if I can. And when I am building depth, I build it in specific places because I think it's functional depth, not just depth, but functional depth, not roster clogging depth. So I don't know if that helped, JC, but
it might. I might be able to facilitate a little bit. I at one point said, and it sounds like something I'd say, and JC Troll has been using it to think about his team. And one way of initially evaluating a team is to look at your team, or like that. That's a few years into Dynasty, and if you have 10 starters or 11 starters or an 8 starting roster, how many players do you have that would be drafted in that many rounds of a startup right now? And that tells you something about the value of your team. If you have 8 players that will be drafted in the first 8 rounds of a start 8, you're doing pretty well. It's as if you just drafted this team kind of a thing. And from there, you've got, well, I only have 3, but all of them are drafted in the first round. And there's kind of a balancing act of how well the value in your team is and if you need to spread it out. And he's gotten to a point where he's got more top 10 round players than he needs to start. That was his initial question or thought. And because my point is, I don't really care about depth. If I can have Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, I really don't care who my running back 3 is if that's the price of getting to that level. If I can get Hurts and Mahomes, I don't care about my QB3 either if that's the price of getting to having those 2. I try to trade up for studs in general. And like you say, the shallower the starting lineup, the more interested in studs I become anyway. And what I said to him was something roughly like that. And that if I'm at where I have the number of starters I need and I'm happy with each of them, if I have one more than that, I'm already thinking about how can I use that to improve one of my starters. And that was kind of my answer. If I have my lineup and it's solid, then I already immediately want to start improving or tearing up one player or the other. Like you say, going for quarterback, going for tight end, that's usually my go-to in Dynasty. But running back solid too. Wide receiver is the Dynasty favorite. That was my answer to it. I don't know if that helps. It's almost thinking about it more positionally than as a team. But yeah, that was just to fill everyone in on where me and JC Troll are on that. What would you do with Zeke on a rebuilder? You really don't have too many options, my dude. You can roster him and see how it works out, or you can be like, free roster spot. I'd probably roster him, see how it worked out at this point.
You hope for an outhouse challenge?
And you make an outhouse taken. Yeah, that's kind of it.
I mean, like Zeke, you might be able to do Zeke in a third for a second, or Zeke in a fourth for a third, something like that. But again, if you roster him and he ends up as the starter over Rico Dowdle, which is very possible, you might have a little bit more value to trade him to a contender in season. I don't think right now anybody's thinking about Zeke.
Yeah, like you're not getting much for Zeke, but I'm still, if you can find a way to get a second for him, and that's even if adding 2/3 to it, then I would do it now. But otherwise, you're probably just sitting there hoping that he comes out and scores 2 touchdowns week 1.
Yep.
Nicola, I feel like some value in Chicago backup running backs, unless you're a believer in Swift. I am kind of, but yeah, running backs, roster them if you got the space. I'm over Swift, cool. But any leans on the backfield there? I don't have any specific. Who's at the backfield in Chicago now?
Herbert and Roshan,
baby.
Both are solid rosters. Yeah, they both have pretty significant. I noticed Herbert's pretty high in my ranks compared to most the other day, but that's because I'll roster running backs with some level of production on just in general. And Herbert had a pretty solid season, and he's not that old, and so I tend to roster him at a higher rate than most. I don't know what you mean by out on Swift. I continue to be in on Swift in my range of outcomes. Like I thought he was what he was in Detroit. Like that's what I expected, and it's pretty solid. I think top 12 isn't out in the same way that it isn't for Walker. I don't expect it, but it isn't out of the range of outcomes. And outside of that, you've got a fairly young, fairly talented running back that everyone hates to roster because they're not Barry Sanders or whatever small pass catching running back they think that can be. But then again, I held Geno Bernard for the same reason until literally about 5 years after everyone else was allowed to legally roster them. I just never dropped them.
Yep.
And the same way. So, and I still think he's that, and I'm pretty happy with that. Do I think he's going to be the workhorse in Chicago? No. No. I think he's going to be what he has been. It has a workhorse-like outcome at some point if the team has a lot of success. But it's, 1% kind of an outcome. Why is Brock Bowers getting disrespected? I saw him at 112 because he's a tight end in Superflex, and everyone's already thinking. And Kyle Pitts probably doesn't hurt, doesn't help. That's what I can think of. I see him falling a lot. Like I specifically traded up 3 spots in one draft to get him, even though I knew I didn't need to, just to kind of make the point. Like Bowers is a different kind of a prospect. He should be getting drafted before the 108. But yeah, anyone else got any thoughts on why Pitts and tight end in the first round in a very popular draft class?
I think you just
never drafts tight ends in the first anyway.
I think you just I drafted Bowers in the first.
Well,
I think
Bowers doesn't count.
I think you Freudian slipped it, Peter. I think you said you mentioned Pitts when you meant to say Bowers, and I think that's what people are doing is going, well, we just saw Pitts be
Karen.
We just saw Pitts be a generational tight end prospect, and the community. I'll air grammar that, but the community missed on that, and so I think people are hesitant to go back in again on the next generational prospect, even though Bowers as a prospect is completely different than what Pitts was.
I think that's interesting for a few different reasons. One, I absolutely agree. And two, like people's memories are short for good seasons, but they're also short in terms of what they did. If you know what I mean, like Pitts was a hit after year 1. He had 1,000 yards, and everyone was like, he wasn't Kelsey, but he's literally the only tight end to have that kind of a rookie season. He was a value hit. He rose. Like people were paying more for him in ADP.
No way.
After that season than before it.
No,
not than John Bosch was, but that was a different thing altogether.
But no, it wasn't though. Like you get this like attachment to Bosch and Bob Gilchrist, but
Gilchrist.
That was how the community I think you absolutely are. Like my way I approached Pitts changed as the community started to just have this huge crescendo echo chamber about Pitts, where at first I was like, look, he reminds me of Evan Ingram, Noah Fant, Eric Ebron. That's the type of tight end. Like he's good, but like temper this. Like he is a receiver at the tight end position, which to me is not exactly what I'm looking for as a top tier tight end. But
he was almost a 1-to-1 for me with Ingram, like the only two in that kind of profile for me. Yeah, that was a good comparison.
Well, but the community got so far out over their skis with it that I did an entire show where I was like, draft Kyle Pitts.
I remember that. Yeah.
Because immediately he was worth 2 firsts.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've gone the other way with Bowers, where like people are worried about taking him with 8 single first. And I think if you draft Bowers and then try to trade him, you're probably not getting what you paid for him, because I think next year's draft class, the first round picks are slightly devalued from this one. So it's post Pitts, like a post Pitts depression, I think.
Yeah, he dropped like 10 spots in ADP. I was wrong. Not that ADP is a measure of how much value that was carrying, but yeah.
Well, but it's a measure of how the community's feeling, which is...
It might be Ingram I'm thinking of. I know there was a tight end, and I'm looking at Ingram. Yeah, I know there was a tight end that did that. I literally looked up Evan Ingram's profile because I'm so tired. I could only think of one name at a time. But anyway, Toronto Dave tonight, really. Party hat guy, football heart. Shocked face emoji. I'm going with shocked face emoji.
No, he's covering his eyes.
Guy. You're shocked. I'm shocked. That's what I see. Little alien man. I think that's a sloth. And that's clearly Mario. And then a crab and 2 lemons. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that.
Can't figure out what that is next to the sloth.
The squid.
Oh, is that a squid?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see it. We're just going to chill.
Okay. No, I'm not entirely wrong on Pitts. He was a 2021 draft pick, right?
Yes.
And he did nothing but escalate in value all the way up until September the next year. Like it was just that's like a year worth of value windows, and that's with the season playing out with that 1,000-yard season happening. I mean, DLF's ADP isn't everything, and like you say, that's not what the community did. But at least I remember the ADP trade. Okay. Double lemon made a return. Yeah, I like the double lemon. It makes it
double lemon brought Russ back.
2 with only having to identify one.
The only reason I'm here.
Russ, I know, right? Suddenly it's a good show. A hold and sell before deadline. Duh.
What if you don't have a deadline? That means you're holding forever.
Just you and Zeke.
Forever.
Yeah.
Why would the Cowboys sign Dak when they could sign CD Lamb? There's a lot. There's a lot in that strikes.
So here's the thing about Trey Lance.
Parsons and Trey Lance.
He's actually bad.
Yeah, because
that's why, buddy. And Trey Lance to CD Lamb makes us start hating CD Lamb. Like there is wide receivers can be good without elite quarterbacks. They can't be at least decent without a quarterback. If you know what I mean, we're looking for an Andy Dalton minimum, and Trey Lance is below that line. Micah Parsons I can't speak to, and not the value of money in football. I don't really do contracts. I can tell you a quarterback with the level of results of Dak Prescott is worth whatever they paid him.
They haven't yet.
There's not that many. Whatever they should, whatever the going rate is. Sorry, past tense, future tense. Yeah, he's definitely who you should lock up. I will say it hamstrings a roster to a certain extent from a team build, but I mean, it's hard to draft someone with that ability to the point. No one identified it in Dak. They got it cheap for way too long. Everyone thought they, me included, identified it with Young last year, and so far we're wrong. And before that, Trevor Lawrence, and instead it's less than Dak, and Tua and less than Dak. Like, good replacing it is hard, isn't that where value comes from? Yeah, I'm not really a contract guy.
I don't understand the hate on Dak Prescott either. Like he's been fantastic. For
in the last 4 years, his lowest points per game finish was 11, QB 11. No, 10, QB 10.
Yeah.
So like
tomorrow
the ceiling
on
of all those guys.
DynastyFootball.com, there will be a trading post article written by Russ Fisher about Dak Prescott.
And like even if you're talking real football, which I occasionally like it crosses my mind, but not very often. But like one of the measures of a quarterback is how they perform under pressure. Dak Prescott had the top like QBR under pressure out of like quarterbacks last year. Like that,
I think this is football fandom rather than fantasy. There's how many Super Bowls, there's how many preseason games probably built into the hate, if you know what I mean, which matters so little to us. And also, I don't think it's a direct result of how good your quarterback is.
But I don't think that, and this is coming from somebody who is in New England, has watched the Patriots for 35 years, 40 years, 35 years, like, and seen Tom Brady win multiple championships. Like, so much of getting to and winning a Super Bowl, that like 4-game journey is luck. Like things just broke right. Like like Tom Brady had to have field goals. He had to have the tuck rule go the right way. He had, all of this different, all of these things happen, and that's not within the control of the quarterback. Like Dak Prescott's been fantastic. Patrick Mahomes has been fantastic. Has happened to have, and not to denigrate Patrick Mahomes because he's been great, but like there are things that break his way that didn't break Dak's way. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, I can't speak to Mika, and Trey Lance is infinitely replaceable. I mean, there's got to be a pet rock around here somewhere. CeeDee Lamb is the real thing I can speak to on this, and CeeDee Lamb makes that team better. Without CeeDee Lamb, that team is worse. He is really difficult to replace as well.
Micah Parsons is very, 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 very good.
Yes.
I would imagine that's the other part of it I can't speak to. But in terms of the one that I do know a lot about, like CeeDee Lamb is more replaceable than Dak Prescott. And like I don't think a lot of people on just offensive minded fantasy football even recognize that. Like CeeDee Lamb's worth less than Dak significantly.
Because he's not flashy. Like Mahomes, first of all, is young and he does the sidearms and the all the State Farm commercials and all this shit. And like that's literally what my article was about. It's like taking the discount on a name because it's not sexy. And like if you actually look at the trades for Dak Prescott, it's crazy how low he gets traded for. And it's really just because he's like what 35, 36 at maybe, and he doesn't do anything flashy. And it's ridiculous because he's a top quarterback. He's a QB1 every single year. It's ridiculous. There's literally no reason for it except for the fact that his name doesn't make people go, ooh.
It did. I remember that rookie season, that from nowhere season.
Yeah.
I definitely got caught by it. And I don't believe that quarterbacks come from that area of the draft very often. And the value
is he only
escalated a little bit.
30.
He's only 30?
Dak, yeah.
I mean, like I knew I was exaggerating a little bit, and then like, said he's 33. I'm like, okay, that makes more sense. But the fact he's only 30, like he's a kid.
It's amazing how much they let me, as someone who refuses to evaluate quarterbacks, get away with. I can wait till Dak has that great season and just start believing in it, and then I get like to have Dak forever because people start hating it. It's weird.
I'm so happy. It was a 1 QB league. But in roster cutdowns before his rookie season started, I dropped Dak Prescott. But it was a 1 QB league, so who cares? Because it's 1 QB. Like if that was super flex, I'd been crushed.
See, that's
hopefully you wouldn't have done that.
In my home league with Kyle, I got Dak Prescott in the preseason that year before he was the starter. I was watching and I was like, no, this guy's good. And so. And then follow that up the next with Lamar Jackson in the second round of a. So we'll take.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah. It's like Hurts. People let you get away with so much because I don't know. They let you get away with way too much at quarterback just because narrative, I guess. Anyway, sorry, Ben. I can't speak to probably what is your actual concern, but fantasy wise. Yeah. Any opinions on Theo Johnson? No, not a huge one. I did a little write-up for rookies, but
athletic tight end. Like if you got a roster spot at the back end, go after it.
I have a lot of him because he was there in like the 4th in tight end premium rookie draft.
The tight ends outside of Bowers in this draft are just available. Like anytime you feel like picking them up. Really bad look. I don't. Who has a crucifix earring?
I don't know.
Okay. 12-team Superflex 0.5 tight end premium. Stroud and Neighbors or Laporta and Richardson.
Stroud and Neighbors. No,
Stroud and Neighbors. I just had to check because I like Laporta. But yeah. you're not even coming close to me wanting to roster Anthony Richardson here. Like, no, the other side, like 100 times.
Theo Johnson apparently has the crucifix earring.
Oh, okay.
No idea. Real quick, I was fighting with Rocky last night. Who in a 0.75 premium league? Who do you think is worth more, Puka or Laporta?
Probably Laporta. It's close, but probably Laporta.
Yeah, I said Puka.
It's close. It's close.
But also because I tried to trade Laporta and can't get anything for him. But
see, that's
almost impossible to trade that guy. That's true.
That's an exaggeration, but I can't get what the tight end one should be.
But I think that's the rub though, Russ, with those leagues is even though tight ends are more valuable, people have a hard time flipping that switch, which to me is the advantage in that league is I'll roster tight ends because people don't, even though there's a premium, they still have in their head that tight ends don't matter and they're not valuable.
But everyone goes after them. They just aren't willing to pay anything for them.
Yeah. But
the Dynasty, that sounds like in general. Yeah, let's try the neighbor's side pretty easy. Who leads the league in tight end receptions this year? Trey Sermon. No, wait.
N'Keal Harry.
Chase Claypool.
No, he's the most consistent wide receiver in Buffalo right now.
I bet it's pretty close to Ingram again.
Probably. I mean, it's one of the usual suspects. I don't think it's going to be anyone exciting. It's probably going to be Laporta or Kelsey or Andrews.
Yeah, I mean, like people want it to be Dalton Kincaid so bad, and it could be like he was pretty good last year, but it's probably not going to be.
If you need to bet that a tight end is going to be a heavy volume option, then you're well into your skis on the argument. I think. I mean, that's a vacated targets argument. Eh?
Like Ingram is the one that if I'm gonna go Ingram. Get a later tight end that people undervalue every single year, it's Ingram.
Yeah.
Why is it Jake Ferguson?
I think I just take Kelsey, but yeah, Ingram's a good bet. Yeah. Why is it Jake Ferguson? I actually think he's a really interesting, deeper breakout candidate for this season.
He's just he's the Dallas tight end. He's Jason Witten. He's whoever the heck Dalton Schultz. He's whoever the heck ever was before Dalton Schultz or after Dalton Schultz. Like they have just guys at tight end, but their quarterbacks just love feeding the tight end no matter what. So like Jake Ferguson is not anything special, but it won't matter because Dak will just keep throwing him the ball.
I think Witten was a high point, and I think Jake has a chance to become that high point again than Schultz, rather. But yeah, sure, cool. He's like 33.
No, he'll be 31 at the end of July. Dak will.
He's a tight end. Oh, Dak?
No, Dak. That was during the Dak conversation.
I was gonna say.
He's a Leo. Sure he and I are kindred spirits. Our birthdays are very close to each other.
Fair enough. Philip J. Fry, give JJ Moore a first plus a second for Justin Jefferson. Yes.
Yes.
I don't care about your roster.
Yeah.
Yes. But I like your roster. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice roster. DJ Moore and Puka for CD Lamb. That should be more even trade.
I'd rather do the first one.
Yeah, no, like
I want CD Lamb, but a DJ Moore is a little bit of a heavy ad. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that is absolutely the scared of the Bears offense, DJ Moore.
Yeah. Probably.
And I don't want to do that.
I think that's too much. Yeah. Was answered last week, but curious on Russ's thoughts. Appreciate you all. This one? Russ didn't even recognize it. Oh, we're done. We get to go.
Well, Russ wasn't here last week. How
Not everybody.
I don't know. I don't know how he did that. He must go to other places and talk with other people. Not tell us about it.
No, he was saying that we answered this last week, but he wanted to hear what Russ had to say, Peter.
I'm very tired, Zach. Don't point it out so much. No, that's sorry. That's it. No, I got nothing. Anyone else got anything they want to talk about? That's the end of the comments.
Well, there's
So
another
far.
one now. No non-PPR question. What's the value gap between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb? 12-team Superflex, no PPR. It's quite a bit.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It is for me,
I mean,
but
I just-
like Harrison goes above Daniels, so I'm not sure it is for everyone.
In
but-
a no PPR, he wouldn't.
Oh, I guess. Yeah. Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
sure.
in no PPR, I'm definitely taking Daniels above Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
So
Like, to
wide
me, that
receiver and
really-
standard scoring.
Like, yeah, for with no PPR, like you
No
need,
PPR and a Superflex.
yeah, you need.
So
yeah,
we're going back to Sorry.
you need someone who's putting up 100 yards and a touchdown every week, and like you want that to be Marvin Harrison Jr., but chances are it might not be because nobody does that every single week. Caleb Williams, even if he's only QB 12 or 13, he's going to score more points than your average wide receiver. So like it's still
gonna
really
score more than
very
most wide
heavily Caleb for me here.
Yeah, wide receivers suck in standard scoring. That's where a lot of the running back I hate wide receiver feelings that still come from, because a lot of us played in standard scoring back before in the olden days. I guess. Zach and Peter told me to take CD.
See, when I'm here, I'm the voice of reason
too much.
for the two of
I
them.
maintain I want CD. DJ Moore is a little bit of a heavy ad. That's where I'm at.
Well, and I think that the start 10 kind of like changes it a little bit, where if you like CD Lamb becomes a starter and the non DJ Moore doesn't hurt you because you're thinking Kyler Lamar, CMC, Bijan, Kamara, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CD Lamb, AJ Brown, Tyreek, Mark Andrews. There's 10.
Just because he's less valuable on your team doesn't mean he's less valuable when he ends up on the other player's team. You don't devalue him because he's not a starter for you.
I'm not saying you devalue him. I'm saying that this, like, I want CD Lamb in my starting lineup.
Yeah. Yeah. But
in
at what
this
cost,
league,
Zach? At what cost?
I mean, DJ Moore.
Fair.
in that non-PPR league, what's the difference between them? Would you need to add a first? Yeah, I wouldn't accept it if you were offering me Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb in 25 first in a non-PPR. I'd probably still keep Caleb. What is the value? Depends on who's rostering him. They might take that. It's probably close. I would still say no.
Man, I don't even know what it would take, because first of all, you have to pay the whole QB to no QB tax, and then you're really losing value on the no PPR thing. And I legitimately don't even know. Like, it might be 2 firsts for me to start thinking about it, like, seriously. And like, honestly, I don't even want it to be picks. I need something that feels solid in there, especially when you're moving down to a devalued position and moving off of, the shiniest new toy of shiny new toys.
That's not a bad point. You're trading rookies. What you can trade away is security. Like, here's an actual known good player. That might be a better way of swaying it than trying to throw out another first. They're all just mysteries, Change what your side's offering. Should Bryce Young be on waivers in Superflex? In a Dynasty? No. In a redraft? No.
No.
Not at all. I actually think he doesn't have to have many good games for that value to take a pretty substantial swing, or at least solidify so you can trade him more easily. And, he was still a solid prospect. Maybe the rookie season was the worst of what we'll see. We don't know.
The situation got better than it was last year. That's you could at least say that.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you all again. Not really a problem.
All right, and
I'm only here because I enjoy it. So
I giggled when Peter read your name out loud, but I'll say it out loud. I love the Futurama name, unless your name is actually Philip J. Fry. In which case, I love your parents' dedication to Futurama.
I said that a few times. No one else got it, so I just stopped. But
What do you mean no one else got it?
I
It's,
kept
that's
saying
very
Philip J.
presumptuous,
Fly, no
Peter.
relation, and you were blank, and Philip never mentioned it, and I was like, okay, I'll just quit.
Oh, I have a trade offer. Hold on. I need you guys to tell me what to do.
Okay.
Outhouse challenge.
Okay, well, let's do this first.
12 team Superflex PPR start 10. Drake London and Raheem must start, or CMC. Get out of here, Dave. You know the answer, or you're in your field. It's CMC.
Oh my god, I can't believe you're making me give up a sexy young wide receiver for a running back. But you if you get CMC for something like this, you get CMC for something like this. And if you're trying to shift the focus of your team, you don't get Mostert. Like, to me, the gap between London and Mostert, the gap between London and McCaffrey is bigger than Mostert in general.
It's a full gap between London and
like
McCaffrey.
Mostert doesn't. I just traded Mostert away for was probably going to be a late 25 second, and I felt thrilled about it.
You should.
Okay, so people don't. I can type as many times as until my fingers hurt that I'm only doing the Outhouse Challenge in leagues where I post it on the message board and in the specific chat, but everyone still sends me offers with hashtag Outhouse Challenge in them. So I got a trade offer that is not an Outhouse Challenge league, but see, here's the offer. Trey Benson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and a 25 third for Jalen Waddle.
No, I want Waddle.
Yeah.
I know the answer. Like, I think I'm getting myself a little too excited about Jackson Smith and Jigba, and a little annoyed with last year's Jalen Waddle. Like, I wasn't gonna accept this, but I needed the reassurance that I shouldn't, because I have the Waddle side is mine.
Yeah, no, I'd rather have the Waddle side.
And that I like the idea of Trey Benson.
You mentioned earlier, who was it that you said it's definite value? We mentioned Dak a few times. But Waddle's... no, ETM. We were talking about ETM being one of those values as people come below you and above you, and you just stay still. Waddle's another one. When I get trade questions, I feel like everyone's zigzagging around us. Everyone feels pretty low when I look at the trades that people are considering, offering, would send on Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, Waddle's value has really fallen. So if you're a Waddle fan, go and send out what you think is a lowball offer, because it might be on par with what other people are feeling. I mean,
I'm
first of all,
a fan of being a top 12 wide receiver.
Mike McDaniel, I can never remember his actual name, because first I want to say Daniels, and then I think it's just McDaniel. But
right.
Hey, Scampers. Like, he pretty much came out and said that he just wanted to get Tyreek to that record. And then it came out that Waddle played like the entire season.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it's not like we could prove it. So he could just come out and say that if he felt like it.
It's also just a thing they say. And I'm saying that as someone who likes Waddle. But like every player seems to play it.
If that's the reality, and maybe that's why they just fed Tyreek like crazy, because they knew they couldn't depend on Waddle, like there'll be a major shift, like not Waddle taking over, but like closer to 50-50. And that's huge for Waddle. Like 50-50 in that offense would be gigantic.
Yeah.
And like, I'm afraid to let myself get optimistic about it.
You've seen him be good. Like,
I know he's good
with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need targets to fictionally vacate. Mr. Scampus says we're as handsome now as when he started reading to catch up to us from earlier, which is true. I'm just as ugly as I was 20 minutes ago, whenever this thing started.
I'm a little sad that you don't have blue streaks in your hair.
He does. Have him turn to the right. There you go.
There it is. Yeah, he texted me yesterday. I got ink in my hair. I'm like, well, it depends. What color is it? It might look good on it. It might look good on you.
It's kind of a purpley, but it's blue.
Pete's gone punk. I like it.
I love it.
I know, right? It's my new style. I'm rocking. Kid Coop, I gotta drop 3. Vaughn, Izzy, Rutger, Bellinger, Hyatt, Burks. I've got good news. I have a bunch you could drop. Pretty much everyone I just said. So I can pick up 2 new running backs, Gamewell and Ali. Ali's a definite, and Game's okay. Yeah, sure. If you're asking who I would keep, that's a harder question. But I think you can drop any of them for those 2.
Who's Vaughn?
Deuce Vaughn.
Keyshawn?
I thought
Could be Deuce, yeah. It's probably not Mo. He hasn't played
it's
in a while.
probably not Mo.
Ricky?
Probably not.
Ricky. Forget the
Ricky.
curveball, Ricky.
Like, you
gotta
can
be
drop
a
any of those
Dave
first
Vaughn.
4 and you're fine. Hyatt, you just hold on to, because like, let the draft capital just clog your roster. Like, I wouldn't.
Okay,
I wouldn't
you drop
Hyatt.
Hyatt and Burks just to feel like you're alive, because that's as much as
Just
they're
to
ever
feel
going to
alive.
give you. That's my. There you go. That's my answer. Honestly, yeah, sure. Keep the higher value players, I guess, but you drop Hyatt and Burks. At least we'll get a thrill of getting rid of them
Honestly,
before everyone else gets rid of them.
like, well, first of all, if Burks does return kicks in your league as return yardage, that might
return
add
yardage.
something to him. But like, there's definite strategy in dropping popular named roster cloggers and letting people waste their fab. Like, my league's the waiver wire is almost nothing because we have like 32-man rosters plus taxi squads. Like, it's purposely built for that because it's more to make you trade the bottom of your roster instead of using the waiver wire. But most leagues, like, the waiver wire means a little bit something. And if you can have people, if you could chip away at their money and then all of a sudden QB gets hurt and well, Joe Burrow gets hurt and Jake Browning is on the wire, or running back X gets hurt in the back and their backup is there, all of a sudden you have an edge on other people. So like, if you really do just feel like Hyatt and Burks they're the right people to drop because people will pick them up. People probably won't pick up a Banaconda or Ruckert, especially now with other running back being touted as the second RB. Was Allen drafted by
Braylon Allen. Yep.
Yeah.
Like he's being touted as the second on the depth chart. So like you don't have anything to gain by dropping them, and usually you don't have anything to gain by dropping anybody. But I do think people will spend money to pick up Hyatt and maybe Burks. Like, I would put $2 on Burks, and that's still something.
Okay, Coop, before you said Rooker, we did not, don't worry. Kincaid is my only tight end, and I actually think Rooker becomes the number 2 or 3 option for Rodgers this season. He's being slept on hard.
That is very optimistic of you.
It's a tight end. I actually don't mind rostering your deeper somewhat. I can see it. Tight ends. Rooker isn't one for me, but sure. Yeah, and that's not who we said, so we're good.
I mean, Ruckert has spent a lot of time hurt or behind guys of names I can't even remember anymore. Like, it's fun. Like, I want Ruckert to be a thing because he's from close to me,
Sal,
and our buddy Sal Lito, who's the Podathon host, like grew up, around his Ruckert's family. Like, he coached Jeremy Ruckert. Yeah,
I would say this is an offshoot of a vacated targets idea. Targets don't have to land anywhere or be of interest to fantasy. They can disappear in the wind. They can just go to an extra tight end that isn't Rucker somewhere. And we have to stop thinking tight ends are going to settle into a bucket somewhere, and we just have to find the right bucket. It's not. It doesn't happen. But sure, you like him. I think it's fine to keep him.
But if you like him, hold on to him and don't drop him. Like, that absolutely should be part of your thought process. Like, you might as well like the guys that are on your team, or if not, use it as a tiebreaker.
I mean,
and
Peter,
Hyatt and Burks are interestingly droppable, and they're right there. Like, you lose nothing. You're honestly going to lose nothing. And like Russ said, it might actually make you win the waiver wire. That's what I remember him saying. You will never miss on the waiver wire if you do it. I like that.
You leave the Jermichael Finley slander out of, like, it's live as you typed it, out of your keyboard.
Okay. Was having a debate with a friend about how Rodgers never throws to tight ends often, but also he's never really had a good one. It's weird how that works, huh? And no, I fully believe that.
so
chicken
this
or the egg?
But this is the Tom Brady had Gronk for so long, and then you had the year when Gronk retired, and the Patriots got Martellus Bennett and somebody, and they were gonna be the sleeper tight ends because Brady threw to Gronk a ton, and guess what? Brady threw to Gronk a ton because Gronk is a Hall of Fame tight end. Aaron Rodgers didn't throw to tight ends because he didn't have any very good ones, and the 1 year that he did, it was who do you have? Did he have Mercedes Lewis? He had 1 year where like somebody was pretty good, but it's because he's had bad tight ends. And guess what? The Jets have bad tight ends.
Kid, this isn't actually a chicken and egg question for me, because the chicken and egg question is actually answerable from different directions based on your philosophical perspective, as I read on Wikipedia once. This question actually has an answer. Targets have never worked the opposite way. Good players create targets. They don't catch them in a bucket because they're going to fall somewhere. It just literally does not happen. And every avenue trying to make the concept work, I'm not trying to be a dick. All I do is do the follow-up. Every breakout because of vacated target arguments, I just go and look at what happened to targets the next year. And then I did a history of it. And then I tracked it in advance for a year or two and showed how that's not what happens ever. And it never happened again. And people still think sometimes it works that way. It's never actually worked that way. But
counterpoint.
You can't catch targets. You can catch balls, but you can't catch targets in a. It's players create targets. Finn, there's actually an answer to this one.
Counterpoint, Peter.
No.
Kelvin Benjamin. There's no response. I won.
He didn't have any targets. He caught touchdowns.
That's like the equivalent of Tom Brady was drafted in the
draft. He did. He had 1 year, Peter, where he had.
Yeah, he had his first year, and he was actually pretty solid. But I was kind of.
But he was actually bad. But you can't say he was good and then got bad. Like that doesn't work. He was bad. The fact that
he was tall and Cam Newton threw the ball really high and really hard.
I was admitting, I thought I caught a good player. That's what Jeff called me fine because he thought I got one right finally. It turns out I didn't. That's what I was saying. I actually thought he had a decent prospect profile in that first year. It kind of beguiled me into believing it a little bit. But yeah, it was mostly touchdowns. To be fair. Wasn't the idea of that one that Kelvin Benjamin is tall and Cam Newton can't hit players because he always throws too high, and so Kelvin Benjamin's height.
It was the same. Like I remember when and this is going back a little bit, when the New York Giants signed Plaxico Burress, I literally started laughing and applauding because Eli Manning throws 6 feet above his receivers. So what do? You get the tallest dude in the league to be your wide receiver, and it worked perfect.
Kelvin Benjamin, 145 targets his first year. 118 targets his second year.
Really?
78, 27, 51, 67.
Oh, that was a nice.
Honestly, what I do with that is we're talking on a scale. Saying Kelvin Benjamin is good makes you laugh, but saying Kelvin Benjamin is good next to Chase Claypool even, or next to most of what the rest of that team had, is not ridiculous. And Cam Newton as the other balance of that equation, sorry guys who think black guys can run, can't pass, it's actually an above average passer. Same with Lamar Jackson. Actually, he's actually better than above average. And that's what happened. He's good enough.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
good
Cam
enough with good.
Bad.
Some stuff can happen.
Like, do you remember when Christian McCaffrey was
not a perfect equation either way.
No, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, but that's the one that you can point to. That's the aberration. Was Kelvin Benjamin actually bad, but had the 1 year where he had almost 150 targets. I just like messing with you, and that's the easy one to point to.
As far as percentage, I don't know how Fab works in your league, and I don't really play with Fab on the numbers of how much you spend. I tell you what, you should check out the Superflex Super Show. It's something that Tommy B digs into a lot. How much to spend, how to look for trends with your league mates, and how much they spend. It's not an edge I've ever felt like exploring. So waiver wise kind of weak in Dynasty in my experience, especially if you're targeting the right positions generally. But he knows a lot more about it. He's someone you should seriously consider and check out anyway. My basic answer is I want to spend most of my fab in the first 4 weeks of the season, so I'm not looking to blow it all right now. But Ali should be on a roster right now, and that's the only player that you mentioned that I think really should be on all rosters in any 12-team or anything close to that Dynasty league. So I'd go pretty heavy for him, whatever you think would definitely get him.
Well, so what I tend to do is keep track of what players in my league typically bid. And you can go back. I know you can't go back and look at Twitter likes anymore, but you can go back and look at what people bid like last year on rookies at this time of year or the year before on rookies this time of year and kind of get an idea of where they're at. Rasheen Ali is not a hugely hyped up name, but is a name that is known. I think that you're going to see Estime go for more fab. Probably Guarendo goes for more fab. But like that's kind of what I kind of like eyeball it around 15%. But
I'm pulling up a couple of Trade Addicts leagues because I mean he was drafted in a couple, but he also wasn't, which means he was picked up in fab, and it's in that actually it's less than 10%. Like we play with 200 and he went for $15 in one, 11 in another. This was also 2 weeks ago. I don't know if he's gotten more valuable in the last 2 weeks, but I think if you throw a 10% plus bid on him, you'll probably be pretty good.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But also Genji brings up the very good possibility that if you don't play with people that sit on Twitter all day, they probably have never heard the name Rasheen Ali before.
Yeah, probably. He had a horrible season. I'm not ready to say he's horrible yet, but it was a horrible season for sure.
Just because he had a horrible season doesn't mean he's horrible.
Keith Cooper also says he was late getting on this week. Hope you fellows are doing well. Killer show as always. Thanks, kid. We appreciate you turning up and hanging out with us a little while. Thank you. I knew that was going to happen. I've got a lag, so I'm double clicking. I was debating selling Walker for one of Flowers or Addison. Either. If you could get either. Either. Just don't know which one. I like Flowers. I think Flowers is fine. I would lean Addison, but honestly, Flowers is a really good get. Probably he's a Baltimore receiver. That's my hesitation. He doesn't have the touchdown concerns, which I think I can wave away a little bit with Addison. But honestly, it's still there. He doesn't have the situational concern. He doesn't have a lot of problems. In his rookie season, hit better benchmarks. Flowers would be my answer if I didn't prefer Addison's rookie profile as significantly as I did. So I think Flowers is a perfectly fine answer. I lean Addison, but if you like Flowers better, do it for Flowers. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like that you just gave it it would be Flowers, except I like Addison better. I like that.
Yeah, you like that one. You like that. Analysis.
Yeah. Hashtag.
I was debating selling Walker. I
just did this right. Next one. Yeah.
JT or Bowers and 2 tight end premium. Dynasty Bowers.
Yeah, but I think the value is still on JT.
Yeah,
I think the value is on Bowers, but you'd probably rather have JT on your team.
Yeah. The thing is, JT is in that window you talked about where he's a 5th round pick now suddenly, even though he probably shouldn't be. So he's harder to trade, etc., etc. The answer is JT, but I think Bowers wins,
especially people go nuts. Like it's really funny. It's the same thing. The difference between the 112 and the 201. It's literally one pick apart, but that one in the front versus the 2 in the front is a very, very big deal. Like I play most of my leagues are 1.75 per tight end reception. the value difference between my leagues and leagues that it's 2 points per reception is massive. And like Bowers is probably like third round startup pick in a 2.0 premium if he falls a little bit. Like it's crazy. And JT is a now unsexy named running back, even though he's gonna crush it this year.
Funny.
There's no reason he won't. Like, I traded for Jonathan Taylor in this non-point scoring season.
No, he's very much in line for a bounce back / difference making running back season this year.
The second he was healthy, they just fed him the ball. Zach Moss, who was doing so well, they're just like, nah, go away.
Yeah, I was actually just talking from a career act point of view. His little dip here is fairly common in those years. But it's nice to know that the actual reality of that matches up because, you know, I'm kind of out on the limb with the other thing. Would you sell JT for Kittle or Bowers? Bowers over Kittle. So
not
Bowers
at all for Kittle. Not at all for Kittle.
Like, right, because you don't have the potential trade value to move Kittle.
Yeah, Kittle is.
I get it.
Kittle.
But the two. So we just talked. Sorry, go for
it. But like to add to what Zach started to allude to, even if this wasn't like if this isn't your end game, if one of these tight ends isn't really where you want to be, then if you're just playing the value game, like in my brain, you should be in the non-point scoring season. You should go get Bowers and then flip Bowers for Josh Jacobs and a sexy wide receiver. You know, like still, if you're competing, you still want that running back who's going to score you some points. And then you go get someone that still bolsters the dynasty value of your roster. But like, if you're competing, just hold on to JT. He's going to score points. But if you're playing the value game, the answer, like Kittle shouldn't be in this conversation value-wise.
No. And the other part of this, and we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show, but Kittle is not a high volume tight end.
No.
Kittle gets yards after catch.
Yes.
And so the 2.0 premium, while it does help him some, it's not going to help him as much as you think.
Yes.
And so again, like if I'm gonna go get a tight end, it's still like Evan Ingram is like the cheap tight end right now, who's gonna get a ton of targets.
It's been years.
Yeah.
You know, he was the tight end 7 2 years ago, tight end 4 last year, and there's just still no respect on his name.
And with the 2.0, like he may lead tight ends in receptions again this year. So with a 2.0 premium, like that's not like he it was like 100. I have to look it up, but it was like 114 or 115 catches last year. So in a 2-point premium, before you even add yards and touchdowns, that's 230 points. That's wild.
I have no thoughts on this, Mr. Scampers. I agree.
I haven't paid attention to hockey in a couple of decades, so I can't really help you there. And I haven't paid attention to basketball in even longer.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't even know what sports was.
I tweeted out the other day, Celtics in 3. Like it was the first couple.
They're going to do
that
so well that they don't even need to play the 4th game. They're going to beat them so bad in game 3, they'll just be like, no.
That's the one.
Mercy rule.
Genji thinks he can get Ali for $1. And to Russ's point, probably.
Well, no, it was Genji's point that I was saying.
Yeah.
Like, go to the next. He said, like,
yeah,
like that's the very good point that like Zach slaps me in the face metaphorically with all the time. Like, I get stuck in talking about my leagues. My leagues are literally found on people are found on Twitter. They're found in this community. So I'm stuck in that mindset and forgetting that not everyone is on Twitter 24 hours a day. Like, and if you're not, chances are you've never heard the name Rasheen Ali before. He's absolutely right. And like, that is literally like a my bad of an analyst kind of thing, even though I'll never actually call myself an analyst, but like, he's right. Like Genji's right. Like that's could absolutely be the truth.
Yep. The only pause I have selling Worthy for ETN is that the running back is falling in value year to year, and Worthy is a 21-year-old first-round wide receiver, and we really like Worthy. Don't forget
This
that.
is a very
KG.
pro-worthy group of people.
Yes.
The running back market is in a downtrend in general. ETN might be catching a swath of that, but he's one of the few that shouldn't be, because the reason the market is falling, he's one of the few that isn't doing it, or not the cause of it. And also, value comes back up eventually. I don't think it's going to this year or next year, but the year after that. But that's not the argument for ETN. ETN shouldn't be falling in value because the market is falling. He's not a running back prospect. He is a good young running back. He's not a prospect at this point. He's just known.
Yeah, but
and they never brought anyone in.
It's the three phases of value, though. Like Worthy, we're dreaming on. ETN is points value.
Yeah. Running back.
Yeah. Like I mean, ETN is along the same lines as Jonathan Taylor at this point, though. I think we've seen more out of Jonathan Taylor than we have ETN. And like, it's funny, like I started to get sour on ETN because of how well he was doing. Like, two touchdowns in each game. It's just like, all right, dude, spread it out a little bit.
Come on, man.
Like slow down. And to me, that like soured me a little bit on him.
You're trying to make me like too much,
Yeah, like you're trying too hard. Play a little hard to get. But like, yeah, his value is lower a little bit. Like his trade, like I didn't write an article on him, but I talked about him at one point. Like he's easier to get than he should be. And again, like I started to say, and then Zach, and I didn't want to interrupt Zach, but they didn't bring anybody in, and we saw that they don't care about Tank Bigsby, like, which hurts me a little bit because he's named Tank. But like, level. But again, that's not what this question is about. This is a value question, and man, this is rough because, like, if you told me you can get ETN for the 109, 110, which is really what Worthy is being drafted around, like, that feels good. But then you put the name to it, like this. I hate late firsts this year because the 110 and 111 end up being Worthy and Brian Thomas Jr., and I really like the two of them, but like, ETN should be worth more than that.
Nihilism is a word.
And then
we believe in nothing, Lebowski. That's a quote.
It
and
is.
2 tight end premium for tight ends. I don't know how much that affects value. Actually, 2 is actually significant. It's where it gets pretty significant at that point. Again, it just does more to spread out the elite tier than anything else, but still, it puts a hell of a value on that middle class and elite tier. The elite tier being Kelsey. I have JT Bajon Ford. That fell off quick. Kenneth, Tajay, and a bunch of running backs like Big Baby Ray Davis. Good running back, like, healthy.
I get it, but like, I don't care about rosters when we're talking trade value, especially in June. Like, it's
I
really
don't care
a
at all.
question of value for me. Like, I still and again, I talk like it's my league that they're called trade addicts. It's usually very active, or active enough at least. Like, if you don't have a very active league and you need to go get your running backs right now, yeah, you worry about who's on your team and stuff like that. But if you have an active enough league, you should not be filling out your lineups right now.
No, but I would say ETN is immediately your running back 3 with a bullet. Like, there's a significant difference between him and Kenneth and Ford. And you now have 3 guys who are flexible and as a running back, that's fairly rare as well. I mean, a little of that depends on your settings and how many get started and stuff, but all 3 are generally flexible, even standard.
That's too many running backs on one team for my liking. I can't condone that.
Yeah, but we're talking about value, and couldn't you then do other trades and get CMC and like a bajillion?
I would have to do it so fast because it would just hurt my soul seeing that many running backs.
Can we re-rack that it's 2.0 premium for a tight end? I don't know how much that affects value. In Russ's 1.75 premium leagues, Hawkinson and Kelsey were top 10 quarterbacks last year. Yeah. And they were not, they didn't have good years.
bad. Yeah, Kelsey had a bad year last year.
But they were top 10 quarterbacks. So that's what, and that's 1.75. So dial that up a little bit. 2 points is you're that's the way to win the league right there. Like,
what wide receiver is the sexiest on a per game basis? Probably Tony. I don't know. I only look at per game numbers if players played at least 8, probably 10 games. So
I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
Yeah, it'll be the
Amon Ross St. Brown.
name.
Like, this doesn't really change anything.
No.
like, not like.
Oh no, I would say Chase. Not on a per game basis, but thinking of single week upside, Chase is the king of variance, or has been over the last couple of years. So maybe Chase, because he already is on the list anyway. Maybe I'd use that.
This doesn't. The way this is worded would make me like, I don't care if he gets hurt if he wins me a couple of weeks, but there's still no wide receiver that really changes a ranking because of that wording. Like, to me, like, this is still just the same guys you always liked.
Cooper Kupp.
Puka.
My wide receivers are AJ Brown, Rice, Dell, Deontay, Wicks, Parker Washington. The order you put your players in triggers me quite often, Genji. Just so you know this, like, it should be AJ Brown, Dell, Deontay, like, really firmly in my mind. I can't get over it. But again, when we're talking about a trade, your team doesn't affect. But I see what you mean. You feel weaker at wide receiver. I don't think you're that weak at wide receiver
at all.
To be honest with you.
And why do you hate Rashee Rice, Peter?
I don't know. Relatively early on in my thinking, it becomes more about a flex position than anything else. And ETN's in the tier of running back where he's easily competitive after the AJ Brown tier at wide receiver, like significantly after, but still. And so he fits in better with your team, in my opinion, anyway, as a flex stuff. But yeah, that's me.
So I need to,
in your opinion,
I need to go and make sure my children are asleep. So I need to go to bed after that. But before I leave, I need to say, and I know I've already started to spoil some stuff we talked about on Trade Addicts, but I need to, we said Puka, and it clicked something in my brain. I read these two names together, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. And while I hate naming my fantasy football teams after players on my team, I want to get Puka Nacua and TJ Hawkinson on the same team so I can name it Puka Hawkinson. Saying those two names together fills me with joy. Puka Hawkinson. And you have to say it fast. Puka Hawkinson.
Well, that's all that matters, man.
On that note, night, everybody.
Good night.
Wow.
Yeah. On yeah. Should I make some trades on live stream? Should I make some trades live on stream? Yes. Also, let me know when you're streaming. I'm gonna send out the offers. I was contacted by the ETN guy, and in another league, the Flowers Addison guy wants a running back off me. Oh, you mean on our live stream? Well, you can try, but we're running towards bed at this point, my man. Any interest in Dolan Holker? Not for me personally, but I don't know. So he might just be one of those players I haven't come across my radar, but has potential. I have no idea. I have him stashed in a one taxi in that league. Do you know this fella?
I don't.
Sorry.
But I only went 60 players deep in this class, so, you know.
Just not deep enough. Kate Stover, Eric All.
Oh.
Stover, both good at value. I roster a lot of all and almost no Stover. So.
Yeah, Stover's fine, but I don't think he does anything that is going to end up scoring fantasy points. So, he's a fine tight end, but not nothing real. I like Kamani Vidal. I think that's a good stash.
Vidal is one of the names you've told me to look out for in those later rounds. Yeah,
and
I think he's caused some buzz though. Other people are snagging him. I don't like it.
Yeah,
I actually like Steele. I think he called himself in college one of the most interesting men in college football. Anyway, I did a rookie profile on him for obviously my ranks as well, and I ended up kind of walking away thinking there was some decent upside there. He could catch the ball. He's coming out fairly young, so we haven't seen fully what he can do. I think teams might find his skill set fairly interesting. I didn't mind him, but I would lean on Vidal just because Zach mentioned him specifically, whereas Steele was just someone I found interesting in that later round. What were you going to say about Steele? Sorry, I jumped in.
He's fine. Like, whatever.
There you go. Greg Dolchich or Jelani Woods?
I think that's an and. But
the guy
yeah,
whose name...
like Dulcich is the one that I would be interested in. Woods is
all combine, no catch.
Yeah.
So should I trade JT for a tight end? Yeah, I mean, which tight end? But yeah, you could, especially in a dynasty league. It's an interesting way of moving value to a position that lasts longer. Tight ends are, and I nearly said this when Russ was talking about trades, because you've mentioned it in this talking to another question, but tight ends are more difficult to trade in general. We sometimes forget to mention that when we're talking about their value. They become more of a points per game proposition, even though their careers are actually longer than wide receivers, shorter than quarterbacks, and that's about it. But yeah, the value at least is going to sustain. He's going to be more tradable to more teams for a longer period of time. I actually think depending on which tight end, I still might prefer JT, but there's a few tight ends right now, top 5-ish, that I would take over JT. Yeah. Sound about right? In a trade.
Yeah. But again, maybe your league is sharp enough. You said that everyone paid up for a tight end in round 3 and 4, and you took AJ Brown 301 and Tank Dell 412, JT 501. Like, yeah, if you can get one of those top 3 or 4 tight ends, then do it. Otherwise, the guys that I'd be targeting are Ingram, who's perennially undervalued. Even somebody like Cole Kmet ends up being undervalued. Njoku ends up being undervalued. And Peter, you're gonna love this, but go like Pittsburgh's offense is actually going to be fairly tight end centric because that's kind of what Art Smith does. And so like I think that's not a bad way to kind of play that. Yeah, to go after Freiermuth. But
looking at my ranks, the only tight ends I have above Jonathan Taylor, Bowers, Andrews, and Laporta. Yeah. It feels like there's a tier thing going on there with Kelsey, though. Yeah. Anyway. Everyone paid up for tight end. Oh, okay. Zach just covered that. I said sexy, not variance outside. I have no opinions. Sexiness, I guess. How dare you hate on a mega elite dynasty wide receiver 1, Rashee Rice? I know. I apologize. Just wanted to show my appreciation and give a like for the grind. Appreciate you, Anthony. Thanks very much. I appreciate you commenting and hanging out with us more than anything. Thank you, guys. No problem, Mr. Scampers. It's a weird feeling to hate it when someone says something nice about someone you like. Hashtag Roman Wilson. I get what you mean. When other people start wising up to one of your favorite snags. Yeah, that's rough. Bowers or Kittle are my options. Just in general. Yeah, I'm still in the same place. Jonathan Taylor, you need a plus with Kittle that's pretty substantial. Or I would take Bowers pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I'd rather have Bowers than Kittle in a 2.0 tight end premium. Again, because I don't think that the premium actually helps Kittle as much as it.
As much.
Yeah. So.
Also, he's old. People like to hate him at this point, and he's a yards after catch guy to Zach's point. If they're even available at the price range. They should be. I think, but I was assuming you were in talks. But yeah, I would try either. Maybe try Andrews. If not, he's like the forgotten man in that range. You know? I don't know. It feels like you would be a Mark Andrews guy, Angie, am I off the base there? All of those guys went before round 9, so I ended up with Benson Ott and Zach Ertz. It's rough when you miss the guy you're aiming for just before that drop off. Like that's the only problem with playing tight end that way, because it's kind of it's a habit of mine. I actually tend to emphasize the position more commonly these days. But I loved my sleeper tight end days because they're fairly easy to predict, and so those was it happened to me recently in that Biscuit Bowl draft. It's like Scott Fishbowl, but the money goes to animal charities instead. And I was aiming for Dallas Goedert, who's going pretty consistently in a certain round. I was like, I'm just going to take him the round before that. And he went the round before that. I was like, now there are no options left.
But the thing with that, Genji, is go look at where those players went. And maybe you don't have to give up Jonathan Taylor to get a tight end. You can give up a lesser player to get a lesser tight end, even though they're still going to produce fairly well. So that's something
Also, just with the thinking in general, there's a little sunk cost fallacy, or that's the term, where just because you drafted a guy in the 8th doesn't mean he's still worth an 8th round pick a year later. So, make sure you're not giving into any of that too. Love you guys. Squirrel. True.
Is that like look over there?
That's
there's
from
a squirrel?
Squirrel. And then you get distracted and you look in the other direction. Yeah.
I mean, look over there.
Looks a lot like that. But I'm not that great. So yeah, what is that dang movie where the dogs you can hear them speak? It's Up. The dog in that movie has got the collar and you can hear him talking. He keeps going, squirrel, looking in a random direction, I believe. It's true. That's what it's from. Anyway.
Are you ready, Pete?
Yes, sir.
Look over there.